I am Tip McIntosh, and I work as an administrative specialist in the OHA's hospital staffing program. The OHA's hospital staffing complaint system is how Oregon's hospital staffing laws, including the updates in 2023's House Bill 2697 and 2025's House Bill 3294, are enforced in Oregon. In this video, we will review permitted deviations provisions and explain the information hospitals must provide to the OHA in an investigation when a permitted deviation has occurred. Permitted deviations provisions are outlined in the Staffing Regulations ORS 441-765 subsection 6 for nurse staffing, ORS 441-775 subsection 12 for professional and technical staffing, and ORS 441-776 subsection 12 for service staffing. These provisions allow a unit to deviate from the staffing levels in an approved staffing plan. In addition, permitted deviations provisions apply to a hospital unit that is required to use the statutory nurse-to-patient ratios in ORS 441-765 because the hospital has yet to adopt a nurse staffing plan for that unit, and the unit is one of the specific unit types listed in ORS 441-765. A hospital unit may deviate from its approved staffing plan or the statutory ratio up to 6 times within any rolling 30-day period. If the deviations occur and are correctly documented, these deviations are not a violation of the staffing plan or statutory ratio. The unit manager must report each deviation in writing to the appropriate staffing committee within 10 days of the deviation. Failure to report the deviation to the staffing committee means that the hospital cannot count that deviation as a permitted deviation. Permitted deviations may include instances of staffing ratios falling below the required levels or minimum staffing levels are not met for a designated period of up to 12 hours. A deviation can last for a shorter duration. For example, a unit manager could report a 45-minute deviation. Whether the deviation is 45 minutes or 12 hours, the unit can only have 6 deviations in a rolling 30-day period. Any single deviation may not exceed 12 hours. If a deviation extends beyond 12 hours, it will require multiple permitted deviations. A hospital cannot be sanctioned for one of these deviations as long as it is one of the 6 or fewer within a 30-day period, and it was reported to the staffing committee by the manager within 10 days. If hospital staff members file a complaint about a failure to comply with a staffing plan, and the investigation reflects that it was a permitted deviation, the hospital will not be sanctioned with a warning or a civil monetary penalty. A hospital is not required to report permitted deviations to the hospital staffing committee. However, unreported deviations are not permitted deviations, and if a complaint is filed, the hospital will be sanctioned for failure to comply with the nurse staffing plan or statutory ratio. During an investigation, the OHA will request that the hospitals provide supporting documentation to verify that each deviation was appropriately reported. The OHA may ask for the following information. How many deviations were there for this unit's staffing plan in a rolling 30-day period? What were the dates on which deviations were reported to the staffing committee? And for the reports made to the staffing committee, the OHA will need to identify the date of reported deviations, the shift or time the reported deviation is related to, and the unit the reported deviation is related to. If a hospital does not provide information in response to questions about permitted deviations, the OHA may determine that no permitted deviations occurred, or that a deviation does not qualify as a permitted deviation. For more information about hospital staffing requirements and hospital staffing resources such as FAQs, webinars, and nurse staffing shorts, please visit the hospital staffing website at www.healthoregon.org/hospital staffing. Thank you.